Welcome to the Saturn Return series with Almost 30 in celebration of our book called Almost 30 that is all about the journey to turning 30, but it's more about your relationship to change and turning the mess of your life at times into magic. And we're so excited to be sharing our Saturn Return stories with you. You guys submitted a lot of stories, but we wanted to bring up some that we felt like would make you feel less alone, that we felt like were relatable, that we felt like could support you in your process and journey, and that we could just commentary on.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, comment on. Yes.
Comment on. I thought we could commentary on them.
We could create some commentary and comment on it.
Yes.
We're so glad you're here. Thank you. And comment below. Would love to hear your
We
thoughts
want a lot
on
of
these
commenting.
stories. We want to hear your thoughts on these stories, your favorite parts, even your Saturn Return stories. Yes. But let's get into this one.
Where do I even begin with my Saturn Return story? I'd say it all started right when I turned 29. A little backstory, I grew up in a very Christian household. I was a worship team singer and would often fill in wherever the church needed. To say that I was deeply involved would be an understatement. This will be important in the story that is about to unfold. I could tell already. When I saw that, I was like, here we go. I had been in the most toxic relationship of my existence for about 6 months. I constantly broke up with him, only for him to reel me back in with gifts, planned trips, and empty promises. Each time I fell into the same vicious cycle, growing accustomed to the highs and the lows. The week of my 29th birthday, I broke up with him for what I thought would be the last time. Have you ever done that?
The highs and the lows, breaking up, going back together a lot.
Yeah. You know what's funny is since being single in my 30s after my really long relationship, is that I kind of I loved that when I was younger.
Oh yeah, I was just about to say.
I was like, I don't have an on again, off again. I kind of wish I had someone that was like that I got the hit when they text me. I'm like, here we go again. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's a real thing. I think whatever chemically is happening in the brain when you have the breakup, but you also know that there's gonna be the surgeons and like the resurrection of the relationship.
And it's only a matter of time.
Only a matter of time. Yeah, the roller coaster I think was really exciting for the body. But then you realize, like I realized in my 30s, like peace is where it's at, and peace at first feels boring.
Yeah.
You know, so I think in our 20s we want things that are exciting. We want things that kind of just like stimulate us in all the ways.
Yeah.
And also things that keep us from actually growing. Because I think once we're like kind of faced with that, you know, everything has to change.
Of course. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think maybe my college boyfriend, we were on again, off again for, maybe that's a little bit. I was always running. 2 weeks passed, and for the first time, he didn't reach out. Weeks is short. Sometimes I would go months on stuff with like.
And not reaching out to someone?
Yeah.
Like a boyfriend you broke up? Wow.
By Thanksgiving week, unable to handle the silence, I contacted him and asked if we could give our relationship one more try. To our surprise, he said no. This is why you have to be black cat golden retriever. I was devastated, heartbroken, desperate for a way to bring him back. I turned to something I had only heard about in passing, black magic.
Soph was like, oh, before you even said it. Did you vet this?
You guys, I just saw Christian and then I ripped.
We gotta keep going.
This is the, what do I have to say? I have a lot of things to say about this. One time I recorded a podcast with a friend that had recently gotten divorced, and she had just been on a trip, and she learned a spell.
Okay.
A love spell.
Oh, I think I remember this.
That she taught me. We never released the episode, but I cry laughing at that now. She's like, this is like a Balinese like black love spell that you could do to like get someone to fall in love with you.
I remember you saying that.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. It was actually very simple, but okay.
That sounds like authentic connection.
Dude, 100%, 100%. They're just under a spell when they're with you. Okay, so now my girl's into black magic. So,
disclaimer, we do not approve. No, I'm just kidding.
I began casting spells in an attempt to win him back. This is what happens when, from a parts work perspective, that part of you is so desperate for that connection again that only sees life and love and experience and joy through that person.
Yeah.
Like you in relationships, from a parts work perspective, if you have a toxic relationship, a part sees love and experience and everything through the guise of that person and believes that's the only way to feel that.
And I think this is speaking to the lack of control. He was the one that ended it.
Yeah,
he was the one that was like, no.
And so that's abandonment and rejection. So then you're like, I'll do anything.
Wait. Yeah, it's just a clawing. It's a clawing at like, I'm sure she would like to be the one to have ended it. You know what I mean? Where you just want to have the last word. It's almost like there's this like mirage that it's like they have the upper hand. Or the illusion, illusion that they have the upper hand.
100%. There's nothing I love more than having the upper hand, to be honest. I also think the black magic thing, I think when you grow up very religious, you believe so much in that religion that you believe so much in the God and the Jesus in it, but then also the devil and the demon and the enemy in it. Yeah. And so then you also believe in the black magic aspects of it, probably. So the belief in it and that intention in it makes it even more powerful than if you're just kind of neutral about it.
Yes.
Okay. So she's casting spells on our boy. And as I explored this path, I discovered something even more powerful. Lilith, a symbol of female empowerment. So Lilith was featured, and there's this book, it's like a Jewish mysticism book, and Lilith was featured as the opposite of Eve, and she was actually the dark, shadowy aspect of Eve. There's Black Lilith, and so this was like the hungry, demonic aspect of the feminine, and is like a very powerful figure. There's also a Lilith moon, I believe in astrology, so there's aspects of it. Instead of focusing on spells for him, I shifted my energy towards self-love rituals, embracing Lilith's strength and independence. That's actually very cool. Wow. Ironically, even as I poured my energy into self-love, my ex began resurfacing in my life, but this time even more chaotically than before. Very normal for this to happen. Yeah. Very normal. This is a test. He is testing you to see if you have chosen the path that is for you, that is for self-love. Also, I want to also speak to how important archetypes are. So Lilith, in this case, how she found her was through a dark way, because Lilith essentially is like a shadowy, demonic-y dark figure. So she found Lilith, but yet her archetypal framework made her use Lilith as empowering. And so archetypes and using this as like your guide and your North Star, you know, God should technically with a North Star, but Lilith using it, the archetype, as something to move her, something she can relate to, is actually really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's coming back in her life. His reappearances were erratic and disruptive, proving once and for all that our cycle was never meant to continue. The universe was showing me in the clearest way possible that I had to fully let go. Then everything came crashing down.
It is normal in your Saturn return to have on and off periods. There might be a period where you're in an intense lesson and it could feel just super, super chaotic, and then you'll have a respite. So there's like an off period to the cycle. You can actually find this out on our website using the calculator, the Saturn return calculator. And then this sounds like she's in an on period again, where it's like kind of the next level of lessons.
So true. Yeah, on the calculator it is helpful because there's like months where you had a break from the Saturn return period. Also, trigger warning. So if you are triggered by drugs, overdosing, addiction, anything like that, you know, turn on a podcast of ours. Okay, then everything came crashing down. I overdosed. During my hospital stay, as I laid in the bed hallucinating and derealizing, disassociating, I heard a voice tell me, "This is not what you were created for." I knew exactly what it was hinting at, my choices, the black magic, the way I had been trying to control my life instead of surrendering to something greater. For a brief moment, I considered going back to the church, returning to what was familiar. But deep inside, something else told me to not give up on my spiritual journey. There was something greater. This wasn't about going backward, it was about finding a new way forward. This is the Saturn return. You want to return back to what's familiar, but what's familiar no longer exists in the same way. So you're like, I'll go back to the familiar church. But in your mind, in the way that you are as a person, you're not going to relate to the church in the same way, so it doesn't work. That transition led me to an entirely new world. I immersed myself in spirituality. This was when I discovered Almost 30. At the time, I was managing a dental office where I'd worked for 6 years. But as my life began shifting, so did my career. I was fired from that job. And when I found another position at a different office, I was fired again. These setbacks forced me to reevaluate my path and finally made the decision to enroll in an EMT course. That choice opened a door to something I had long considered, but never pursued. I decided to go back to school for nursing. I love that.
Wow.
I love that she used it, using the setback to evaluate the path. It's like not spiraling, not making it about you or something wrong with you. It's like, maybe I'm meant for something else. So this thing, the firing, maybe it's not telling me that I'm bad or I'm worthless. Maybe it's telling me to go a different direction.
I think that this period of time taught me that, you know, where it's like I was so hard on myself for so long. I was so critical. I just was not nice to myself around these like hard seasons where I'm like, damn, damn, like, why don't you have it all together? You know, why don't you know what to do? Or why do you keep doing this? Or why are you in this pattern still? And it wasn't until, and I think honestly therapy helped me with this, where yeah, you could take that step back and just be like, okay, wait a second. You know, this is actually the perfect alchemy and the perfect moment to pause, to center myself and understand like what is really coming up and how change really wants to work on me. It's not trying to make my life horrible. It's trying to transform my life.
Love that. My Saturn return was a mix of spiritual awakening, a career transformation, and deep self-empowerment. It was a time of loss and rediscovery, of breaking free from old cycles and embracing my higher self. Despite the hardships, I wouldn't change anything about it. Every experience, from heartbreak to career struggles, to that life-altering moment in the hospital, shaped the person I am today. Now, as a nursing student, I feel more aligned with my purpose than ever before. And today, God means so much more to me than who I used to believe before. My understanding of faith has evolved beyond rigid doctrines. It now means something more personal, more expansive, and more real. I no longer see God as something confined within the walls of a church. I see God in everything, in every lesson, in every moment of grace that has carried me to where I am now. And for that, I am deeply grateful.
So beautiful.
Beautiful.
I mean, to go from black magic to that closing paragraph, I am into it.
I mean,
wow. But how, like, if we look at that entire story, like, and this is kind of how we, you know, feel about our Saturn returns, where you look back and you're like, everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Everything makes sense, just in terms of how this led me to have, you know, deep reflection about this, and then change the trajectory of my life here. And then that setback allowed me,
Totally.
you know what I mean? It's just,
yeah,
it's so perfect.
That's why it's so important to just turn around and just look at the patterns of your life, where you're just like, okay, I got fired and I got fired again. And then you're like, okay, should I go a different direction? You know, being consciously aware of how you're engaging and how life is engaging with you, like, you get all the feedback you need from life.
Yeah.
It can provide you with everything that you need to know. So the theme for this one, we'd say, Phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yeah, man. Wow.
Like, truly just full reset, full redefinement. Often relationship breakdowns like that really lead you to that. So especially if you're in a relationship reckoning right now, that's usually going to be what's the portal to your greatest transformation. Yeah. You know, and if you do it in your Saturn return, it's like sky's the limit.
And really understanding what you're bringing.
Yes, totally.
Because I think that can be like overwhelming for people to think about, taking responsibility and really being like having that authority within yourself. But it is the most liberating and I think like confidence building trait. Yeah. That I picked up in my Saturn return, where I'm like, oh, I'm responsible for this? Great. Then I can make a change. Yes. You know, other people aren't directing, controlling my life. Like, it's, what am I bringing to this?
Yeah, love that. Beautiful. That's a good one. Share your story in the comment. Maybe your story of breakup, maybe your story of faith, maybe your story of transformation, addiction even, if you want. We'll be reading the comments, and we love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.
See ya.